been sick of malaria before? Malaria fever. You've never been sick of malaria fever? Never. You know malaria? You don't. Okay. That's an exception. So every person has been sick of malaria fever. And malaria fever is mostly caused by one particular insect. Mosquito. Good, mosquito. So mosquitoes are bad. When you get to secondary section like he and she, you will know it's just one particular mosquito that is responsible for malaria. It's called the female anopheles. Okay? But generally mosquitoes are bad. Okay? Now, I come from, are you guys noticing this? You recognize me there?
Yes.
Yeah, the hair went on was a little bit spiky. So I came from Japan. Japan is a foreign country. And I went there to study. And why I went there to study is that in Japan, they don't have mosquitoes any longer. They've gotten rid of all their mosquitoes. Can you read that? That's surprising, right? Can you imagine just be walking on the streets in bushy paths, no mosquitoes? You don't have to be doing all this. Nothing like that. Okay? So I went over there to learn how they got it done. And surprisingly, they use very normal means to get it done. They use plants. Okay? So I learned about it and also made some friends. This is a high school in Tokyo. I can't remember the name though. And it's an Orowa High School. And it was a similar seminar like this. Similar, very similar. They got to sit down and I told them a little bit about Nigeria. Mostly I told them a lot about the NYSC. Okay? So, yeah, don't let the rain trouble you. And that's why I dress like the NYSC and then also they wore their caps. Now, that was something beneficial to them because if I go to Japan, they ask me a lot about lions, tigers, and bears. And I've never seen a lion. I don't live with a lion. Do you live with a lion? What about you? Or maybe an elephant. Who lives with an elephant here? Every time you watch TV over there, you see Africa, lots of game reserves and all of those things. So that's why they ask. In the same way, if I brought them here, I'm sure if you want to ask them a question, you ask them, do they know martial arts, do they know karate? Right? Judo. You might see one of them and go like, yeah. Can you do that? And she will look at it for like, no, it's not everybody in Japan that knows how to do karate. So that's why I showed them a little bit of NYSC. Everybody in the world, NYSC cover is, and so I did that. Now, coming over here, I want to show you something besides karate that they have over there, which is they've got rid of mosquitoes. Nobody gets sick of. You ever call it malaria, then they call it dengue fever. You don't have anyone sick of dengue fever for 40 years. Is that so? Can you imagine 40 years nobody's sick of malaria? That's really something. Okay? So quickly I would describe to you how they get rid of mosquitoes. And they've been doing this for 500 years. But it took it a lot more serious than 40 years ago. Okay? So you guys pay attention because we have other mics. So ask you some questions and you ask me some questions. An insect is made up of hair. What else?
Thorax.
Thorax, good. And what was the last part? You would say it. What did you say? Head, thorax. What was the last part of an insect? This is the head. Thorax. Last chance to know is the last one. Okay, okay. The abdomen. Okay, those are the key parts. So, that's the session. normal what we do there, they have like eyes, they have something called their mouth spots, that's how they eat. Sometimes they have, like with mosquitoes, they have a mouth part that have like a syringe. That's where they suck your blood. Yeah, scary stuff. And they have antennas. Antennas are similar to their ears, okay? That's how they are receptors. That's how they can survive. Okay, they notice things through their antennas. And then they have their wings, which they fly. Okay, now, where do they breathe? You know how they breathe. Head, thorax, or abdomen. Thorax. Okay, because it looks like the chest, right? No. Okay. They don't breathe through their thorax. They breathe to the biggest part, the abdomen. Okay, through holes that are called spiracles. Okay, now how do humans breathe? We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide as well. Now, inside the abdomen, this is what it looks like. Do anyone of you guys know what is called a dragonfly? You know a dragonfly? Okay, so what is dragonfly there? What's special about a dragonfly?
The dragonfly is a fly that, first of all, it's very fast, and one of its prey is bees.
Okay. What about a firefly?
Fireflies have a kind of bacteria in their abdomen that allows them to glow in the dark.
Okay, super. That's right. Okay, well done. So, it's in their abdomen, like a firefly, and air comes in, and they have something called a bulb. It's almost similar to when you have a light bulb. Okay, and then you have an element with like a toxin metal. Air is inside the helium, air is inside, and then it emits when electricity is put in there. Now, all insects have that. It's just the fireflies emit light, right? You can see light. That's why it's very beautiful when you see a firefly. And in the olden days, like years ago, centuries ago, they used to put lots of fireflies in a bottle, and that could give you enough light so you can move through the dark. Now, that happens because of something called sodium. Okay? The most popular thing, sodium, that we consume a lot is salt, table salt, called sodium chloride. Okay? Now you guys pay attention, because I'm just trying to describe this. Now, in Japan, they use a natural chemical called pyrethrin. Can you say it? Pyrethrin. Pyrethrin. And it's gotten from a flower called the Chrysanthemum flower. So once again, the pyrethrin is a chemical gotten from a flower called the chrysanthemum flower. It's like the national flower in Japan because the emperor's throne, the king of Japan is called an emperor, and the name of his throne is called the chrysanthemum throne. Pretty odd, king naming his throne after a flower. You guys remember the Game of Thrones? Who watched Game of Thrones? What was the name of the throne? Hey, you watch Game of Thrones, remember? It's been a long time. Oh, you're that old. Sorry. Who remembers the name of the throne? Who watches Game of Thrones? This is secondary school, guys. Do you remember the name of the throne? Okay, do you remember what the throne looked like? It had what? Lots of, yes, it was a throne called the throne of 1,000 spears. That's when you name a throne. The throne has to be scary, right? Like might, like war, because you're a king. A king conquers, chaos, plunders. So the throne is supposed to be like mean and, mighty. Does it make sense? You name your throne after a flower? That seems lame, right? But you're not dumb, because they used to use the chrysanthemum flower, mix it with mortar, and build their houses. And when they do so, it kills mosquitoes, kills lizards, sometimes it kills rats. For 500 years, Japanese people knew that. Okay? Sorry about the interruption. So remember, chrysanthemum flower is like a flower mite. So it's like the national flower in Japan. And the name of the throne of the emperor is called the chrysanthemum throne. So 500 years ago, they did not have chemistry, so they never knew what was in it. But with years, they found out that it's called pyrethrin. Okay, pyrethrin. Now, pyrethrin is like a chemical, but it's a natural chemical because it's gotten from a flower. And it's a toxic chemical because it kills, right? Good. Now, but it's the safest, best toxic chemical ever. It does not harm human beings. It does not at all. We can touch it. Sometimes, not advisable. We can even eat it. It's never going to harm us. Never. Matter of fact, this pyrethrin, that's what's in here. Okay? That's what I'm here right now. So we're going to use that. Okay? Now, the pyrethrin kills mosquitoes. But that was 500 years ago. They used flowers, they kill mosquitoes. We want to know why. There's so much technology, so we can know exactly. Right? So, through our chemistry, we said, what does it do to mosquitoes that hampers mosquitoes? And what we found out was, remember I told you in the abdomen, there's sodium. So what it does, the term is that it crosses the sodium channels in the abdomen. So, I wish I had a duster. Now, you ever notice a fly? They have a head. The head is small, the thorax is a little bigger, but the biggest part of an insect is what? The abdomen. So, which is the heaviest part? The abdomen, okay? But the abdomen has free air that comes in and goes out, comes in and goes out. So, using a physicist term, the most dense part is the head and the thorax. So this is Mr. I don't know, Ibu or something. So what's the heaviest part of his body? Isn't it the belly? The heaviest part is still the head. Okay, the heaviest part of our body, all of us is still the head. Okay? Now, with the insect it's the same. The heaviest part is the head and the thorax that are together. And then the biggest area is the abdomen. Provided the abdomen does what it's supposed to do. Air comes in, takes oxygen, and air goes out, carbon dioxide. Okay? So, just imagine if you have maybe a bag, right? It crisscrosses all the sodium channels so that when air comes in, it doesn't go out. So air comes in, it doesn't go out. Air comes in, it doesn't go out. What do you think is going to happen? The abdomen is going to get heavy, 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 heavy. So the insects, this is the abdomen. But if it's exposed to pyrethrin, it's going to get bigger, expanded, right? It's going to be like a boil. And if that happens, the insect, what do you think is going to happen? It's not going to move, or it's not going to move. So it immobilizes mosquitoes. Can you picture it? Okay, because it's supposed to go into the abdomen and go up, but now it doesn't. It just stays, it just stays, it just stays. And so, this mosquito is stuck. It's always on the corners, the vertex of the room, and it just keeps crying, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. But it's not like he says it literally, okay? But do you know how the mosquito is going to communicate? Through the wings. When you're sitting still and mosquitoes come near you, do they sound very noisy? Like chase it away. Do you know why they do that? Can anybody guess? Why do they do that? To announce their presence. Okay. To announce their presence, people run away. What? I mean, give it a real thought. When do mosquitoes normally bite you? Is it when you're sleeping or when you're awake? When you're sleeping, right? Yeah. So that's why when they come near you and make lots of that noise, they are checking if you're sleeping or awake. It's almost like check whether he's awake. So that's why you go, okay, we'll go to the next person. So at night, while you're sleeping, you're very noisy. They come and check. Bzzz, but you don't care because you are asleep. That's when he goes back and says, okay, it's time to feast on this guy. Do you understand that? So they communicate a lot with their wings. And when they get into trouble like this, where the abdomen is bulging and they can't fly, it's like SOS. So you see the wings will just keep beating. And when that happens, they are sending frequency waves to others through their antennas that are in trouble. And what do you think others will do? Will they call the ambulance? Like SOS, I'm dying. You know, it's like asphyxiation, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And the guy just, I can't. But there's no ambulance, there's no general hospital for them. So the next guy is like, man, I'm out of here. So two things that it does, it immobilizes the ones they have, and since the others run away, it repels the others. That just works simply. Okay? Zero mosquito nets, no insecticides, not all of this stuff, just the pyrethrin. Now there's another animal that is very perceptive, and he reads whatever the insects do. He guess who that animal will be. They listen a lot to the mosquitoes. If you notice, if there's rats, they run around even at night too as well, because they can tell that everyone has gone to sleep. But mostly, the flies, the way they move freely, the rats know that it's time for me to come in. So, when mosquitoes are in danger, with their big ears, they can hear the wings flapping, and they know, this place is dangerous, so I'm not going to go in. So, it also repels rats. And if the rats, maybe like the young dumb ones, pyrethrin can kill them too as well. So, can you imagine? This is a very, very useful technology that is. The term is sustainable. Because if I use an insecticide in the whole of this place, right? I did an echo. How long would that insecticide last? How many hours? How many days? One day. Few hours. And immediately I start spraying, I'm sure the mosquitoes, they know, they run away. If you look clearly, when you use insecticide, it's cockroaches that die. You hardly see mosquitoes that die. Those cockroaches are too big, they can't run. Okay? Yeah. The easiest way to kill mosquitoes is when you sleep. Have you ever seen when you slept, you woke up, and then you killed some mosquitoes, you saw some blood? Because they got into your covers and they could not go out. And then you rolled them and just crushed them. They could not run. That is sometimes a little bit more effective than insecticide. Okay? So, you use insecticides, lasts for just a day. But with this, they used to mix it and put it on their walls, and it could last for a whole season until spring comes. Over there they have winter, spring, summer, and autumn. Like a year or 2 years. Okay? So, my study at Saitama University and being awarded a MEXT scholarship. This sibling is Ministry of Education, Japan. Ministry of Education, Science, Sports, Culture, and Technology. In Japan, I learned about the pyrethrin. So, mosquitoes who are just around it, the pyrethrin is going to hurt them. But I thought, how about we just take the technology directly and put it in a bottle, and we can apply it on wearable materials. And I said, which is the best wearable material that you can always keep outside? Mostly you keep it outside and it lasts long, and that's the shoe. So now if you have to pyrethrin on your shoes, and you take it to your room, at home, and you just leave your shoes under your bed, somewhere in the corner, you have fortified your room against mosquitoes. So that one is easier. And applying it on the shoe through nickel, because it's catalyzed, it's nickelized pyrethrin. Kind of big words for the primary school kids. Is it? I have added pyrethrin on that shoe. And so this shoe, if I take it to any particular living space, closed space, I fortify that place against mosquitoes. So the technology is brilliant. I think so, and useful, and that's why we're ever more than grateful to have the Central Bank of Nigeria supporting us. So we're going to apply this pyrethrin on shoes and also on slime, because we started SlimeforAfrica by making slime that used to disinfect hands. Hello? Is it? Yeah.
The flowers. The flowers that contains the pyrethrin, what if you plant it in your house? Will it be that active?
Good question. Smart question. So I think that it's first of all, so it's very select places that can grow in Nigeria. So you can think, well, not in Cross River, they can grow in Obudu because of the environment. And also maybe they can grow in the Malaria Plateau and Jos Plateau. So just a select places. And no, because you have to literally crush the flowers so you can get the pyrethrin. The beautiful thing is that you just crush it. So it's almost like, what's the term now? If we get a hibiscus, you know, zobo. You don't just pluck the leaf out there and you eat it. It's not going to be the same thing. You have to pluck it out and then crush it for you to make your zobo drink, right? So luckily, since it's like 500 years old, so the chemistry was not so complicated then. All they did was to take the flowers during spring, after spring, when flowers blossom, which is always a very beautiful scene in Japan. It's very scenic. There's something called the cherry blossom. Wonderful. So they get them at the end of spring and then crush it and mix it together with mortar and straw. And then they use it to sort of like what we will call now plaster your house. And that's what made the house fortifies against mosquitoes.
Are they still doing this in Japan currently?
Yeah, they are.
I'm like studying.
They study, yeah, it's still going on. It's still going on.
How many years?
How many years is studying? Okay, in university, you go like, you remember you go to university for like 4 to 5 years, and then you can do your master's for like 2 years. So it's a lengthy period of the years you're studying, okay? So I did what you call a senpai study in Japan. That's like after masters for 2 years, okay? So if you go like an undergrad, of course maybe for 4 years as well, okay?
So they learn to speak English.
Oh, you have to learn Japanese. If you're an undergrad, your Japanese have to be very good. I'm fortunate I was a senior grad, okay? So that's what you call graduate researcher. So my Japanese did not need to be so good, but you have to learn Japanese. In Japan, nobody speaks English. Back to you. You're welcome.
There is singular movements here for 5 events.
Not necessarily. Like for instance, what's the wisdom behind applying it on the shoe? Is that the shoe is not just localized, but it's mobile, right? You can take the shoe from places to places. But the Kansai Plus can put it on paint. If you paint your walls, can you start moving your walls from place to place? So you cannot. So it makes sense that you're applying it on somewhere stationary and somewhere where guaranteed mosquitoes will come to. Do you know where mosquitoes really love to be? Yeah. They always like being here. How many of you are physics students? Okay. The highest concentration of a particular body or material is where at the sharp, acute ends here. So here is where you have lots of moisture. It's very cool here. And then they like being closer here because that's where you get the freshest oxygen. So the wisdom is if you paint here, this is where the mosquitoes hang around, and Pyrethrin is going to have an effect. Also, my common wisdom, I think it's always at the vertex that we put shoes, especially smelly shoes, right? So if you keep your smelly shoes here, and smelly shoes, mosquitoes love smelly shoes. You know why? That sweat is moist, and the sweat is there because try not to go too far, but salt, one of the properties of salt is that they are what? Hydroscopic. What does that mean? They trap water. So that sweat is there because it's kind of salty and it's kind of moisty. Mosquitoes like to go inside your shoes. It's like, they're having a holiday there. It's like, this place is so good. It's catching my phone, man. This place is lovely. So they love smelly shoes. So imagine, they get to your smelly shoe, Pyrethrin is there. And it could have an effect on them because they have to stay there longer, right? So they slide the walls in it. So this helps that it can be mobile compared to a wall. Cannot move walls. Okay? Did I answer your question? Yeah.
So why don't you use clothes instead of shoes?
Okay, clothes are wise, but which do we wash often, clothes or shoes? So I think you're gonna wear off the Pyrethrin on it. Yeah? And I think most of the time with clothes, you put it in a closet. And clothes are a lot more, they are a lot more expendable than shoes. We change clothes a lot, but there's some shoes. I have shoes for like 10 years. We're loyal to shoes. Or clothes, no. You just love this shoe. And then you have this kind of comfy shoes where your legs also love the shoes. Your leg and that shoe has a chemistry. Shoes will be worn out, but you still put your leg in it. Do you understand? So those shoes are even the best to do this on. Do you understand? So, and even we keep talking about sustainability. Because we are loyal to shoes, we keep shoes longer. And clothes, always changing clothes. What's going to happen? They end up in landfills and we have environmental problems. So shoes are smart and more durable. They stay with us longer, so it makes sense to use shoes.
So, can they be used to, because, and they huge used
Used to be houses.
to
Used to was to be houses.
be
Well, that's what they were doing. Okay, in those days, yeah, there was no cement. You read your Bible, right? There's a term, drawers of water and hewers of wood. And sometimes there's a particular line in the Bible where I was hewed from the rock. Okay? So back then they would go to some place where they have what they call massive marbles, and then they would hew them, find a way to cut them. What they used to like glue them was straw, lots of straw. They put it in a pit, the people would march on it, and then they use them. Okay? And that's what they use. So the same thing applied in 500 years Japan. That very pit where they mix the straw, they put the flowers and mix it as well. But right now, whenever it's getting close to winter, they take lots of those flowers, crush them, get the pyrethrin just like this, and move around spraying it in Japan. Okay? So that's what to do.
So please, can't we spray the pyrethrin rapidly due to other insecticides?
Okay, that's good point. But like all insecticide was meant to kill immediately, right? The pyrethrin, like I told you, is like a slow death. So it's not something you want to waste. You want to put it on a particular location that will last longer. So you spray around the room. You're still going to go around that same room and you start mopping the room, you start vacuum cleaning the room. And so because of that, it will lose its potency. So it's best, like the people in those days, they were smart, so they put it on the walls. Because I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and starts washing the walls. Do you understand? So that way, the walls stay active and the science is long lasting. Yeah, no, just speaking about it, it's all this like primary school kids. Okay, see that? I flew in with it. So I think what should matter is maybe get a garden somewhere and say from Oguja to Obudu, and you can plant it. It's called Pyrethrin, yeah? And you're growing it in large quantities, yeah? In Rwanda, in Kenya, they're growing it in very large quantities because it only makes sense. Insecticides are gotten from petrochemicals, and petrochemicals are harmful, right? Carcinogenic, and let's face it, they're getting more expensive. How much is a big one? Insecticide? It could be like 2,000 naira, yeah? Or, yeah, maybe 2,000 naira. So, globally, when you look at Nigeria, 60 to 70% of Nigerians are on the poverty line, and how many percent of us live under $1 a day? $1 means 500 naira. So with someone who lives under 500 naira, it does not make sense that they have to use an insecticide for 2,000 that has a potency for just 1 day. Okay? So eventually, this is a reasonable, sustainable substitute, especially now with sustainable development goals and all these things going on. So I think eventually we will have this idea of a plan to have a Rewa garden. Rewa means is the era of the new emperor Nakihito in Japan. And they want to do a Rewa garden in Jos. So if we have the plants, then we can grow it. And remember, we can culture. Look at this environment. It's cool now, right? Yeah. You guys know about biology. You know about greenhouse growing. You know about, you can culture particular micropropagation. So you can culture it in a place like this if the facilities are available. Makes sense now, say you want to buy it. Best, low toxic chemical. That's its popular use now, and it's getting more popular. like I told you, that there's a paint called Chrysanthemum paint, a mosquito repellent paint in that. So far, that's its use, because it's safe, okay? And that's why it takes time to hurt the mosquitoes. If it was instant, that means toxicity is high, it just kills the mosquito immediately, right? So, because the mosquito needs to be exposed to it longer, I think, yeah, because if anybody really wants a toxic chemical, I don't think you're going to use this. You go find something harder. So since this is low toxic and safe, that's the most popular use. It's getting more popular because we can't rely on insecticides forever, right? On humans, 0, no.
Okay, like when you want to maintain an area, you didn't just leave the area, so how many diseases to convey and still live?
Yes, but like I told you, if you use it like a normal insecticide, it's not going to harm an insect like the way an insecticide does, okay? It's supposed to harm the insects by long-lasting exposure. That's why they put it on walls. Yeah? So if you spray it around your room, is it going to last longer? I don't know. Because your room will do so many things that will make sure it doesn't last long. So you have to find a way.
The environment.
The environment, okay, yes, of course, you can spray it in the environment as well. Good questions. Like I said, smart choices. Because, so it's cash-related, right? If there's an animal race, animals are supposed to race. So everybody bring your favorite animal for your race. Will you bring a tortoise? Time, but they will eventually die. So somehow its limitation is why it's only used to kill mosquitoes right now. Its limitation is its strength. It's what we benefit from. The fact that it's toxic but very safe. Okay?
How long does it last?
It could last about say 4 to 5 months. So it doesn't last as long as the paint. You know, because the paint is already chemically done. Like I said, the paint is called Pyrethrin, so it's like a synthetic version. This is like a natural version, which is just a Pyrethrin. It has been in Nigeria for years. We just throw it away like weed. It has no use. So when like we grow things in Jos Plateau, for instance, it's just a weed you throw. Like I said, it's not sweet. And it just, do we have the culture of giving people flowers in Nigeria? No. We give people flowers, I mean, what's this? What's this? You don't have any better thing to give me, right? So, it became, because this worked out perfectly between Holland and Japan, they have like a perfect relationship. There was a particular time Japan was an insular state. That means nobody came, nobody left for like 150 years. They only allowed Holland to come. Because Holland said, we're going to come do trade with you and we're not going to give you missionaries. Because the emperor said, I don't want any missionaries. Okay, just do trade. So it's within that trade, you see they have certain similarities, especially when it comes to dairy products. Holland is very good when it comes to dairy products, milk. We even call some milk Hollandia milk, originally from Holland. Now over there in Japan too, they are the best producers of beef. You know, so within that relationship, they benefit from dairy products, but also from flowers. Holland loves lots of flowers. They are also tulips. So I think that was then that they took the chrysanthemum flower to Japan, and with that they had the synergy. And you know, so what the rest of the world is benefiting from it now.
Mosquito actually breed outside the house before they come inside the house. Considering the low killing from the people, say that they don't kill fast.
Yes.
That reduce the because of the low toxicity. But we know that mosquito breed outside before they come inside. So can we actually use this to control mosquitoes inside?
Okay, that's a perfect question. Like I said, if you want to go catch a firefly, some people, if you give them a jar, they'll be chasing the firefly to catch it. But you know the smart thing to do is to wait for it to come to you. So, mosquitoes come to us, and they come to us in our houses because they are drawn a lot to our carbon dioxide, okay? If you go out chasing them, the strategy now is to their favor because they are meant for the outside better than you. Do you understand? So I think you need confined spaces. Okay, the most reliable method to protect any human being against mosquitoes. Doctors didn't invent it. They said it was fishermen somewhere in the Nile River that came up with it. It's called mosquito nets, and we use it till today. What does it do? It just protects you within a very small space so that you sleep. So the next thing to do is to protect you in a larger space within your room. And that's why we have the insecticides, and that's why we have the pyrethrin, and we have all of this. But for the outsides, there is a strategy that they use in Japan. It's called a carnivorous plant called alpha that they grow in the rice paddies. And when mosquitoes go to lay their eggs in those rice paddy areas, the carnivorous plant eats it up. That is the strategy they use. So those are the two that I learned. But for application indoors, right now, is to use pyrethrin and apply it on shoes. But for the outsides is the alpha. And that's subsequently, when the opportunity presents itself, I'll explain that too.